You start out.
In life, I've been in the bookstore business for several decades now, and people are very interesting. You have your good customers. Sometimes you have your problem customers. Anybody who's worked retail knows that occasionally you're going to have your problematic customer. One of the my pet peeves is people who will come and find something that they want, or ask you to get something for them, and you'll put it back and you'll hold on to it for a long period of time, and then they'll never show back up to pick it up. And so you really don't have a choice. You've got to go ahead and sell it to somebody else because you may not ever see that person again. And I've had a lot of that happen. And I guess that's common to retail. And throughout the world, in lots of different areas, things are not always what they seem. What are some of the things that you've run into?
Well, it's not really customer service,
Mm-hmm.
really, but the town that I live in has somehow started receiving a lot of money to make improvements that I just really myself don't think is necessary, and I think the money could be channeled to something a lot more beneficial.
Right, right.
We have a walk track, bike track that goes through some of the worst parts of this town.
Uh huh.
They've actually nicknamed this track the Rape, Kill, and Maim track.
Oh wow.
I have never seen anybody using this track on the west side of town. You may see someone using it on the east side of town, but it will be far east.
Yeah.
And they are trying to adjoin this track to another track that is southwest of here.
Interesting.
And I just keep thinking that money could have been used for something a lot better than that. There's a lot of abandoned buildings here in town that could be turned into homeless shelters, abuse places, counseling centers. But no, they sit there empty while we build tracks and we build parallel parking spaces. We build back in spaces that I just don't get that. I'm not understanding why. I think they're trying to beautify downtown to bring the business back downtown, and I don't think that's ever going to happen because there's just too much business moving east and
Right.
around the loop.
Exactly.
I just think it's a bit over the top as to everything that's been done to the downtown plaza area. Because all of those businesses, over the course of months and years, you'll see someone open a little dress shop or a small restaurant or something. 2 months later, you drive by, it's gone out of business.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I have to agree with all of that, and I think some of the problems that evolve is what I like to call unintended consequences. The city will have some ordinance or some rule or some regulation or something that will prevent something really good from being done or taking place. Uh, I think a lot of times the regulations themselves tie up or prevent the proper use, like maybe some of these abandoned buildings being used for the homeless. There'll be all sorts of excuses that are put forth as to why that's not being done, and all of them will end up being some sort of rule or regulation that has to be complied with, whether it's a safety thing, whether it's a fire code, whether it's you can't have this so many feet from that. There's just all sorts of stuff that's one of the things that I'm very much against is what they call CCRs, and these are housing neighborhoods where when you go in there and you buy a house, you sign this agreement, and you become part of this neighborhood organization that will tell you you can't paint your house pink, or you can't paint your house purple, or you can only have a yard sale once a year, or you can't park a trailer in your backyard, or whatever. There's a lot of nonsense and a lot of crap that gets created, not only by city councils, with whatever misguided ideas they have about it.
It's to
But
make money.
yeah, it's always follow the money trail. Always follow the money trail.
And has anybody noticed just exactly how grown up with grass the lots are getting on the west side of town versus the east side of town? I just would like to see if anybody besides me has trouble driving down some of the streets literally because the trees are hanging so low or growing out from the side of the bank that they hit your car. You'll drive down a back road or something, and this is right here within the city limits, and you'll see a stack of mattresses, an old couch, a chair,
Oh
shopping
yeah.
carts that somebody's just dumped on a public road, and it's left there. I just don't get it. That's just so disrespectful.
Well, I think that certain areas of the city are neglected in certain regards, and a lot more money and attention is spent in certain other areas of the city. At least that seems to be the general consensus by a lot of people on both sides of the city as far as that goes. And one of the observations that I would make, at what you started out a minute ago, there's another good friend of mine who used to live on Shiloh Street, right across from Walker Park. And when he would go across town and see Bywaters Park and Wade Park and Culberson Park all very neatly manicured, and he would come back and Walker Park had been allowed to just grow up like a wild jungle, he knew then that there was very definitely selective, shall we say, enforcement, selective mowing, selective taking care of the property, whatever terminology you want to use. Very definitely, certain parts of the city were getting more attention than others, and that's not by accident, folks. That is by design. A lot of these things, by the way, that we're talking about are by design.
And has anyone else experienced the Death Lane trap out by the Goodwill store and all the way around the loop in front of Campbell Soup? Give me some comments on that one. That I don't understand. Why take away the cut across? I can't see there being that many. There's been more accidents now since they've started trying to fix this thing that causes accidents than there was in the first place. I've
Yep.
seen semis off in the median buried up. I've heard stories of people hitting the concrete rails because the lane is not near big enough to drive any type of truck or larger vehicle, trailer, much less a semi, through the lane. And it's really hurt some of the businesses for you not to be able to cut across. But I do understand what they're saying, that the traffic would back up at certain times of the day and cause a traffic jam from people trying to cross across the middle section there. But I don't think it was necessary to take all of them out.
I think once again you're looking at overkill and unintended consequences, uh, and this is quite frequently done by cities, and we see a lot of it around here.
Yes, we do. And just offhand, does anybody happen to know just exactly how many churches Paris, Texas has in it? Just off the top of your head, I would like to know. You can't drive 4 blocks in this town without seeing a church.
I read somewhere that per capita, Paris, Texas had one of the largest per capita uh, population of churches of any town of its size, and I can definitely believe that.
Yes, I can too.
Very interesting. These are all interesting topics worth exploring.
It will literally catch your attention because somebody asked me that question one day and I said, I don't know a bunch. And every time you turn around, they're expanding on one or building another one or turning an old store into one or
There's a church here that spent upwards of $1 million, no joke. This used to be on Topics, TOPIX, which no longer exists. I won't name the church, but it's one of the big old historic churches downtown. And they spent about $1 million because some of the older people in the congregation wanted to see this organ restored to perfection. Now, keep in mind, nobody in the younger crowd at the church cares anything about it. No, but nobody would who's concerned or has any kind of a social conscience. wants to spend $1 million on an organ when there's homeless people in the streets and people that need to be fed. So, there were people who spoke out on this. But it's their church. It's their money. If that's what they want to do, I just think perhaps that money could have been better used to engage in what Christianity is supposed to be doing, taking care of the homeless, feeding the widows and children, etc., instead of spending $1 million rehabilitating an organ. But that's just me.
Well, not too long ago, I was inside, and I won't name the church, and I was witness of something that I hadn't seen in a very long time since I worked in retail. This church had an office with a cash room in it, with a money counter and a change counter. And I kept thinking to myself, really, that many ties, that much money goes through this building, and it's a church. So where is all of that money going to?
Well, I think what has happened is within the United States, many churches have basically turned into businesses. And some of the big televangelists, particularly, there's a young man down in Houston named Joel Osteen. He's all over the place, so you can't miss him. Videos all over YouTube and everywhere else. And he's written I don't know how many books. That guy's a multimillionaire several times over. So what we're witnessing on a large scale is the businessification, to coin a new term, or the capitalization of Christianity. Some would say the hijacking of religion for the almighty dollar, in which basically the dollar is being chased for the certain people are profiting. And there's still homeless people all over the place, all over the United States, and still people struggling to put a meal on the table every day. And you wonder sometimes, is this money being used properly, being used the way maybe it could be used?
Right.
We thank you for this. Please leave your comments below. If you have observations you've made in your city or town, I'm sure some of this is universal and happens all over the place. We want to hear your stories, so please leave comments, give us a like, please subscribe, please share this video, and thank you very much. This is Rich Vernado with the Rich Vernado Show.